Hello, hello, and welcome to day 4 of the Teens Shoot and Share Photo Challenge. Now, today I want to cover something that is one of the things that everybody, no matter who they are, at some point will come up against on their photography journey, which is focus, as you see just here. Now, one of the things I need to say about this is it's not just focus. People also struggle with getting a nice, crisp and sharp photo too, without the blur and camera shake. And also, there's sort of the science. This bit is how to use the camera settings, we might say, whereas the art of it, we've covered a bit of looking at composition and what's in the frame and what we're photographing and the story and the mood and the emotions. So today is more about our our technical skills and capabilities and how to use the devices that we have. So now you've had some fun taking some photos, let's make them better. Just a quick aside, if you are watching the videos on the website and you haven't got some Facebook account or somebody around who can post them for you, then feel free to send the photos in by email to tutor@lizziebiggs.co.uk. You can see it written just here, and that will I'll then post them for you and will allocate points and so forth accordingly. So on with the focus. Are you ready? Learn some new skills. So today we're going to look at close-up photos with macro mode. We're going to look at landscape photos, which is everything in the scene, and we're going to look at using the automatic mode and how that sort of picks. It moves what it picks on. It decides based on what's in front of it whether it wants to focus more closely or further away. It's trying to be intelligent and it gets it right most of the time. So if you are on a phone, people on mobiles, please be aware, every single mobile brand does this differently. So I've got a couple of examples here, but it may not look like your phone. So on this mobile of generic unknown brand, who knows what it is, probably Chinese, it has mode, but most phones have this mode button. Up here, this means flash on or off. This means twist to your front and back camera, you know that, your selfie cam and your back of cam, move to movie. But mode here, it instead of giving you like all of the sort of landscape, macro, so forth, it gives you names for them and what you might use them for. So this gives you scenery instead of landscape, but on there's going to be something to do with close-up and flowers and that kind of thing. Now, if your camera doesn't have a mode button per se, then you can look for this settings cog, and under here this often tells you exactly what you need to use. If you are on a camera, or maybe these are symbols that actually do appear in the settings on your phone, you may see some of these pictures before on this dial. Now, we're not going to look at all of the manual, shutter priority, aperture priority, and programmable modes. These are a bit more complex, and while we might cover them as time progresses within the actual Shoot and Share Academy, our weekly group, they and go into more of the deeper techniques on how you can control your camera to take the photo exactly the way you want. We're going to look at using the modes it's already got in place, so it's a bit easier, but you need to know how to use them, because used wrongly, your photo is going to look terrible. If you try taking a photo of a close-up flower using sport mode, it's going to pick the wrong settings. If you try taking a picture of mountains in a landscape and you choose macro mode, what will happen is it'll try and focus really close to the camera and the mountains are just going to be blurry, and I'll show you a picture of how that looks on a beach a bit later. But auto, this is where the camera does its best job of deciding. Now, if you don't know how to use a camera, this is better than choosing the wrong mode. If you're not sure what you need, this, I've got a little eyelash, sorry. This is going to be your best bet when you're not sure what to use. But let's go through what you can use instead. The running man, or the action mode or sport mode, is for anything fast. This could be something that's closer to you will always be faster than if it's further away. So a car on the horizon probably won't need sport mode, but a car closer to you probably will. Children, animals, bugs, birds, anything to do with actual sports, but basically anything that goes fast. Like if it's going to move faster than this, you want sport mode. Portrait mode, that focuses normally sort of like half a meter to a few meters away, so a few feet away, and that is good for skin tones and stuff, but also it focuses there, so it should blur some of the background often on portrait mode because it chooses something that's going to work for a close-ish distance to the camera, but not like the still life macro mode does. Now, night portrait mode, what it does is it goes, it's dark, we need to let lots of light in the camera, so it keeps the camera looking at the scene for longer, because the longer you do it, the more exposed. Have you ever used those photochromic papers where you put them in the sun and the longer you left it, the whiter it went, where the object was, it stayed blue? It's the same sort of thing with a camera on the film. It has to stay open to let as much light in. If it's a bright sunny day and you do that, you're just going to get pure white. But at night time, you need to leave the camera open for ages to get those little twinkly stars and, street lamps and stuff to light it up. But then if you do that, like you saw on the first day when we were discussing what's a good photo, the man blurring past, if the camera's open and somebody walks past and you close it, you get that line. Whereas if it goes as they walk past, then you just get the stop stationary. So what night mode does is it's doing this, so anybody in the portrait, they're going to be blurry. So then it fires the flash, because that's the equivalent of when the camera opens the lens quickly, and it freezes the motion. So only use that if you really want flash in your photo and it's dark, so you want the photo to stay open, the camera to stay open and let lots of light in. So if you do that in daytime, it's gonna struggle. Landscape mode. So this is your scenery. This is your bottom of your garden. It's your mountains. It's your lakes. It's the view across the centre of town, maybe anything that's far away and you want to put lots of details in and you want them all in focus. It's not going to pick out one thing and blur everything else. It's going to put everything in focus, which means you can see it all. So if you've got a bustling town or street, you want to see everything that's going on. If you're at a festival or a carnival, if you are at somebody's birthday and you're on a field or whatever, you want to see all of it. You don't just want it to focus on one thing and have lots of blur in the background. Macro mode, however, you want to focus on what you're focusing on. If you're focusing on one flower, you don't want all the leaves distracting you. You just want that flower. So that's what that's for. If you're not sure how to find these, all phones and all cameras do have manuals. There's some harder to find than others, but a quick Google normally turns them up. If you need some help, as I said, you can just comment on the Facebook post and tell me what make and model your camera or phone is, and I'll help you find it. Or you can email that into me at tutor@lizziebiggs.co.uk. But what you can do is download the manual, and some of them, like I have some Nikon cameras and I've got a Sony camera, and they let me put the manuals on my phone, so when I'm out and about I can look them up. It's brilliant. Because the great thing about those apps that have the manuals in is they have search functions, as do the PDF ones sometimes as well, because on Adobe PDF you can search in the box at the top and it will find the word. So if you're looking for macro, you type macro in and it will tell you every page it occurs on, and you go down the list clicking on the links, next, until you get to what you're after, because it might be in the table of contents and then what the buttons on the camera are, and then you might get to this one where it tells you how to actually activate it. So that was just one of the cameras one of the people in my group has had, hence why I have that one there. So macro mode, this is for things that we've said very close up. We're talking like an inch, 2.5 centimetres, to about half a metre away. So a foot and 8 inches thereabouts, and only focus on a tiny bit of your photos. This is one of my students' photos, and you see here this yellow flower. It's focused. The camera on macro mode has chosen to focus on that. The wall behind it is further away, so that's out of focus. If there was anything in front of it and it's focused on that flower, anything in front would probably be out of focus and blurry too, so you can have blurry leaves sort of giving a frame around the edge, and all of the foliage at the bottom down here, that's out of focus because that's further away from the camera too. Whereas landscape mode, that focuses from the front all the way to the back of the scene, all the way. So this is for things that you want in focus that are far away generally. So it's normally good from about a few strides away from where you are, a few meters, a few feet, right all the way to the horizon. And it focuses on everything in your picture. So to see the difference, can you see on the left, on these stones just here, we have got these are in focus, and then the focus fades from back here, it starts to get blurry, and then it's really blurry back here, whereas here, front to back of the photo. So this is the equivalent of using your close-up mode, and this is the equivalent of using your landscape mode. So to focus on your phone, how do you make your phone focus where you want? Press on the screen exactly where you press, that's where the photo is taken. So he's on his Samsung just here. Do you see his finger? He's pressing on this bit, so this bit's going to be on focus. This bit back here is blurry. If you click there, that would go in focus. If you get a lock, if you've got a phone that's good enough to have the A or AF lock, sorry, I'm just going to have a quick. Then that means that no matter what happens, the phone will keep the distance. So if you've set the distance and it goes, right, I'm focusing on something this far away. If you move further away, it's going to go blurry because the distance has changed. If you go closer, it's going to go blurry because the distance has changed. Because if you stay parallel and move side to side, it will stay in focus because it's about how far away it is from the camera. If you've got an actual camera, I don't know if you're aware, the shutter button, the one you press to take the photo, you might have just been going press and taking the photo. But if you press it, when you go through the halfway, that's when it focuses. So as you go through the movement and lightly press it, it focuses. So if you don't like where it's focusing, gently lift your finger up and down and tap it, and it will move around in auto mode to where you want it to focus. Clever little trick. If your parent, however, is a photographer and you're borrowing their camera, please ask them how they've got focusing set up, because some photographers like to use back button focus, which means that the half button thing won't work at all on the button you're pressing. So check first. But on all out of the box and cameras that haven't been changed on the settings, it's a half shutter press. That's standard across the board pretty much. You can always check your manual. So to change the focus point, half press it. You can always get the thing in the center because it likes to focus on the center. This is called focus and recompose. So you press the button half and then it locks, and then you move sideways to then put the thing to the line of the third and then press it all the way down. And as long as you don't move forward or backwards, it will keep the focus distance. But if you're struggling to focus at the edge of the picture, focus on it in the middle, move sideways until it's at the edge, and then take the photo. Little sneaky trick for you. So macro mode, let's have a look at some photos. This works well for little Lego men on rocks. You see the background completely out of focus, it's focused on the foreground. But even here, you can see the guy down here, his face is just down here, is just a little bit out of focus because it's further, because he's hung backwards and it's on a slight angle. The rock, that's the way it's angling. The rock isn't quite parallel with the camera. Now, when the camera sees something and it's a long way to the next thing, it finds it really easy to focus in macro mode because it can clearly find the object. The tricky thing is if there's a lot going on quite close and it doesn't know where to choose to focus. So, for instance, here with the ladybug, how does it know to focus on the ladybug and not that leaf closest to me or the leaf a bit further away? So that's where on your phone you tap on it. But what do you do on your camera if you're not sure how to move the focus points? Look in the manual and learn focus points, but we don't have time for that now. Well, physically move yourself. If you move forwards and backwards, or keep tapping on the shutter and see where it lands. But if that's not working, move forwards towards the object, backwards away from it, depending. So if the focus is coming on these leaves at the front, we want it to move backwards. We're going to move towards the ladybird because the whole field will move with us and the ladybird will fall into focus. So moving backwards and forwards to where you want. If other thing, some cameras have manual focus mode, so you can always use that and then use it's sometimes a roller, sometimes it's the lens, sometimes it's a button plus or minus. So again, you're going to have to check the manual on your camera. So here, the Playmobil lady isn't quite in focus, the person with the dog is, so I would try twisting and moving so I'm more parallel so that both the dog and the lady are at the same distance away from the camera, because at the moment that Playmobil person is a little bit closer to the camera than the dog. So if I can make them both in line, then what's going to happen is they'll both be in focus. If you need more in focus than what's on the macro mode, then auto will pick and could be anywhere in the middle, but if you want everything in guaranteed, that's where mountain or landscape mode works. So here's some examples. These are my guinea pigs. My camera on autofocus and auto mode was focusing there on Joseph, who's the tricolour in the back, and Benjamin is completely out of focus, the sandy coloured one there. Then he focused on Benjamin, and you see that Joseph is now blurry in the back with his watermelon because he's further back than where it is. So we put it into the landscape mode, we put it into the one that gives a much bigger depth of field, so the front to the back of the photos in focus, and we get both guinea pigs, even if one's further forward and the other's further back. We've got from the wood all the way to the grass now in focus. So just to warn you, using landscape mode on something that's quite close to you will still not give as much of the photo in focus as something that's really far away. There's some science behind it, and you can look that up if you like. But landscapes you normally want a lot more in focus, hence landscape mode doing that. If you've got manual controls, this is where you would increase the aperture. So instead of using like F4, you'd use F8 is middle, F16 gets everything in. So you see here, this on the beach, it's focused on the stones. Do you remember I was telling you? Whereas when it focuses on the horizon, so can you see that horizon's blurry in focus, blurry in focus. So that's like the difference between F5 and F11. Or otherwise this is known as landscape mode. So your challenge, get your pictures. I want you to choose a subject, whatever your subject may be. I want you to take a first photo, and I want you to decide how the camera's focusing and what you need to do with it. Do you need to try and make it a close-up on a macro mode, or are you trying to take everything and need more in focus? If you need everything and more in focus, is it going to be all right on an auto mode, or are you going to have to try landscape mode if you can? And do you need to manually change the focus point? Do you need to press on it? Do you need to trigger the shutter a bit more? Do you need to move backwards and forwards to try and help the camera to get the right place? Once you've done taken your first photo, just like you would have done yesterday, you've worked out what mode you need to take a few more and share your best one with me. So I want your before and your after. And tomorrow's Zoom call, today's Zoom call even, well, it depends on your time zone, tomorrow, today, because it's early morning in the UK at the moment, and I think it's late evening in the US at the moment. So the Zoom call for the day 4 is back to the later time again. So it is 7 p.m. UK, midday Mountain, 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern. We'll see you soon. Don't forget to share your photos, and if you've watched this on the website and you don't have access to Facebook, as we said, you can always email them in to myself, and I will get them uploaded for you. If you have access to Facebook yourself, you have a Facebook account, or your parent can do it for you, great. Then just get them on the post with the picture of the camera that says day 4. So we'll see you soon. Bye for now.